He says, is it possible to achieve a nice sounding recitation if you think you generally don't have a good singing voice? Not really singing, but I hope you know what I mean. And especially really struggle with high tones. Would such a person need to put in extra work, or does it not really matter if you can stick to the basic tune? Excellent question. Excellent question. جزاكم خيرا وإياكم. I assume this is Sister Aya. I think. Yeah. Yes. Okay. It's a good question. Now, I would say a general answer, yes. General answer, yes. So when people say I don't have a good voice, often that gets confused. Like there's different things. Okay. Should I open the whiteboard? Forget the whiteboard. I scribble on it anyways. When people say think I don't have a good voice, there's two kind of, you can break it down into two separate main components. One is the tune, which is what we're covering. The other is vocal tone. Okay. Most of the vocal, so tune is like what we're talking about in this class. We say maqam nahwan, right? There's a certain tune that you're following. Vocal tone is like the quality of your voice. Okay. So for example, if I say, forget about tune now, let's just go back to like a flat sound. If I say, there's a certain tonality to my voice, a certain quality to my voice. Okay. Think of, I don't know if you guys are into coffees, but sometimes if you go to buy coffee, right, they'll have almost like tasting notes for the coffee. This coffee has a chocolatey, fruity flavor. This one has a winey flavor. Like, what does it mean, winey flavor? It's just a coffee. There's no wine in it, but they're kind of like describing the flavors or the tonality of the thing, right? For example, okay, let me give you an example. Between those examples I gave before, Sheikh Sudais and Sheikh Shuraim, Sheikh Sudais and Sheikh Al-Husari, right? Those tunes were different, but also the vocal quality or tonality is different, right? One is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Another one was Okay? So the tonality is different. One has a light, brighter voice, one has a heavier, darker kind of voice, right? So people confuse those two things, Sister Ayan, when they say, I don't have a good voice. If it's tune, you can learn to have a tune. Okay? Now, that's what we're doing in this course. Now, for some people, it'll be easier. Some people, it'll be harder. Based on your own, what you're coming in, like you're starting a class like this, everyone has their own background, their own baggage, their own, some people have done nursery rhymes and stuff when they were kids, and they can kind of, if you say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they can do that without thinking about it. For other people, it might be difficult. So we'll do that. We'll talk about that next week. But for some people, they need to put in more practice with what's called ear training. And actually, for this class, for this specific, not overnight Qari, this specific version, July, like last week actually I did this. I recorded a new 40-minute training on ear training, right? Which is how to build up your sense of pitch to help students that, you try the maqam and it's hard to get some of the spacings right. So it's more of a beginner level training to just build up your sense of pitch, going up in pitch, going down. And we'll talk about that next time. Now, the other thing, tone, most of the time, when students say, I don't have a good voice, they don't know a tune. And when you don't know a tune or you don't have a structure for a tune, then you kind of do random stuff and it sounds like it's not that good. It's kind of like you don't have a map, right? So you go to a new neighborhood or you got dropped off somewhere. You don't have a map to orient you. This is the main road here. This is the main road here. That's that main road. And you don't have a map to orient you. So you end up getting lost and you just go up randomly, you go down randomly, and you're like, it doesn't sound good. But that's because you don't have a structure. I found sometimes students will tell me, oh, I can't go up to a high pitch, right? And as we do the maqam, actually I have a video on my YouTube. If you search on my YouTube, there's a video I have of a student, Faisal, where we were just reading and he started going to like the 8. We'll talk about the 8 next time, right? And that was a case, I couldn't find, with that student in particular, I tried to look for an original video I had with him where he was struggling to go to a 5. Okay, we'll talk, again, if you don't know what that is, we'll get to that. Meaning, if you think of the maqam and level going up, you're going up and down. Okay, that's next week's stuff. But the point is that he was kind of maxing out his voice. He couldn't go very high. And that's one thing he told me at the beginning. And then just from doing the practice, we didn't specifically work on how to go super high in pitch, but he started doing it. Why did he start doing it? Because he had a map and it made sense. Like he had a structure in his head now that he can go to that point. Whereas otherwise, it's just random, so his voice is capping out. He doesn't know what to do. So that's something I will get to. The vocal tone issue, for the most part, I don't really get into. A, because it's not really my forte. B, because for the most part, unless someone has something fundamentally, I don't want to say wrong, but you see my voice. There's certain things about my tone that you might say I have a little bit of too much nasality in my tone. Do I care to fix it? Not specifically, right? Unless someone has something like, for example, if I spoke like this and I said, like I think most of you, 10 out of 10 people would say, there's something about the way I'm speaking that my tongue placement is not correct. Do you guys hear it? There's something about my tongue getting stuck. I get that froggy sound, right? So if somebody says I have a bad voice, and they talk like this, yeah, Mr. Bean Tone, right? So if somebody has that Mr. Bean Tone, I think most people would agree that there's something wrong, actually wrong with the way my tongue placement is, and I need to do something with a vocal coach or a speech therapist or something to actually just speak clearly, right? True story, I knew a guy when I was a kid in the masjid that I used to go to. There was a guy that would call the adhan, and his voice was like that. His voice would be like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And as a child, like it was like one of the uncles that put himself, to call the adhan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and reward him. But I always found it very like I didn't like it. There was like his voice was actually like that. So if somebody has a voice like that, right? Or somebody talks like this and it's extremely overbearingly nasal, then that's a vocal tone issue, Sister Aya. But as I said, most of the time when people have said, hey, I don't have a good voice, they don't have a tune to follow. So that's what we're doing here. If somebody has those actual issues, that there's something like objectively speaking bad, wrong. I don't like to use those terms, but you get what I'm saying. If there's something actually with the way that the person is using their voice that's not normal, I don't know how to say it in a nice way. But then there's, then somebody could go to a vocal coach or a speech therapist or something for that purpose. But in my experience with students, most of the time, I would say 99%, I would say 100% of the time, from my experience with students, saying that, it's they don't have a tune to follow, so they don't know what to follow, or they need to do more work with building up their sense of pitch in order to be able to follow a tune, which is all in this class.